Hey, this is Angel. This is my 17th day in a row making a video like this. So, today, something that came up for me was building trust and how, when trust exists, so many things change. When I talk about trust, like, there's the trust that we feel in people, being able to trust a friend, being able to trust a partner, being able to trust family, like trust people in our lives. And there's also like trust in the divine. Like I think of like faith as like having like trust in spirituality, like trust in like divine things happening, divine timing, um, alignment in that way. And I think that when trust exists, there's also like a ability to calm the nervous system like naturally as a product of trust. So I had talked like in earlier videos about how I was dealing with like a lot of trust issues and I was just like feeling very on guard like around people, like even around people that like I cared about, even like my closest people. And I saw a quote today talking about how when someone is dealing with jealousy, envy, conceit, um, deception, like all of these like very things that like we see as very negative, it means that they're like a lost soul. And that's the time when they like require like the most love. And I feel like there was a time where I was feeling so uneasy about things. I just had like my guard up around a lot of things, and I think it was a result of like trauma and just having experienced a lot of um, need for protection and like need for vigilance. And that's like a it's like a symptom of like trauma too, is like being like hyper vigilant. And so I was like dealing with all of these things that made it so that I was constantly questioning if the people in my life cared about me, or if like the relationships I was pursuing like were authentic or were right for me. It just constantly made me feel like everyone was against me in a way, and it led to a lot of self-isolation, but I think it also led to a lot of feelings of like loneliness at the same time, but it was something that I just had to like work through. I had to really be able to like dig deep and like find like a sense of like self trust. And when I started doing like more research on self trust, it made a lot of sense to me that like there were times where I had been like people pleasing, or I felt scared to say no, or I felt like I didn't have a lot of options, or like I just felt like a loss of control, like a loss of autonomy. And I think like dealing with that made me not be able to really like trust myself, because it made me feel like, well, if I can't stick to my own word, if I can't like be honest with the things that I need and like the way that I want to live, or like the choices that I want to make, then how can I trust anyone else to do that too? If I'm constantly dealing with like feeling like I can't stick to what I'm saying. And I bring up people pleasing because I feel like that's kind of a big one that I had to like a big thing that I had to kind of recognize, that it was like really affecting my life in a lot of ways, where I would say I needed to do something or I wanted to do something, but if someone needed something from me, or even if it was like a positive opportunity, but I was still feeling like I was going against my own intuition or like my own feelings of like what I needed or like how to take care of myself, then it's like I couldn't really have that trust for myself. And there's a lot of other ways too, like just making mistakes, like doing things that I felt like maybe I didn't want to do, but like I had to do. Things like that, where it's like it started to kind of make me feel like disconnected from my own like inner compass, like my own inner like direction. And I feel like that made me start to feel like if I could do that for myself, like other people were going to treat me like that too. And there have been other things in the past as well, like just being hurt in different ways that just made me feel like very sensitive, like just very sensitive to like energy, very sensitive to the people that I was around, like situations that like made me feel uneasy. And I had to spend a lot of time like working through that and like rethinking, revisiting like these scenarios and recognizing that like just because something happened in the past, if I'm reminded of that thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to repeat. It just means that I'm my brain is like programmed to protect me. I'm like training myself to like protect myself, but recognizing like when that protection starts to become like walls or starts to become like an armor, um instead of allowing me to connect and like be present and like be experiencing like care from people. I think that like when we are dealing with like trust like this, it doesn't just affect our relationships. Like I think it can also affect our finances, it can affect our opportunities cuz it's like being closed off. And sometimes that's like helpful for healing, not necessarily like being closed off, but just like being more connected to ourselves, like taking space from people, places, like things to be able to rest and just like heal. But at a certain point, it can also become like being closed off can also keep you from doing new things. It can keep you from going new places or wanting to pursue the things that we want because it's like it's not safe. It's just like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I think for me, it really came like in the form of like people too. Like I was kind of like dealing with like a lot of interpersonal issues because I just was constantly feeling like if I could see someone even having like one misstep or like one, like one like red flag for like lack of a better term, or like a one way of making a mistake that made me like question their intentions, it was like all or nothing. Like I pulled back my energy like very quickly. But I had to also recognize that like there have been moments where I've misstepped, I've made mistakes, or I just wasn't feeling connected to myself. It's like what I said earlier, like when we feel these like negative emotions, that's when it's like we're like lost. Like we haven't been able to connect with ourselves and like connect with like what is like the most loving, what is the most kind, what is like what are these like positive things that we could be bringing into the world instead. And I think in those times, it really does show that like people have been hurt. Like they're responding from a place of hurt. They're responding from a place of lack. They're responding from like a place of not feeling worthy. And I totally understand like pulling back our energy from people who are maybe draining us or like are causing us harm. Like we can't necessarily like save anyone, but if we do care about them, I think we can like encourage people to get on to just like get back onto a path that feels like most connected to them, that they feel like they can be like themselves authentically and be like loving again. And I've had to do that too. Like I've had moments where I didn't feel like I was moving from like a place of love. I felt like I was moving from a place of lack, and not just like lack as far as like not having like resources or money or time, but also like a lack of love, like not considering other people, or not feeling um like getting into a kind of like victim mindset that was blocking me from seeing that other people go through hard things too, or like being able to empathize. Like sometimes like we'll feel disconnected, we'll feel alone, and that can block us from realizing that like other people may be feeling that too. And I think like with trust, it's very hard to immediately go into like trusting people and being open, like when we haven't like processed like feelings of being hurt, or like being like dealing with like betrayal, dealing with like things, or like even grieving loss in a way, not just like grieving in the sense of when like someone passes on, but like grieving past relationships, even past friendships. Those things are like grieving too, like just feeling like, you know, people come and go, like not everyone is in our lives like forever, and that can be very challenging like to get over. And it can also build feelings of like distrust, because it's like we don't want to, it makes it hard to like connect when we feel like we don't know where it's going to go. But it's like that's part of like not having control, you know. It's like we don't know how things are going to go. We don't know who's going to stay around, who's going to be around. But that doesn't mean that it should stop us from like loving in the moment and caring about people in the moment, and hoping, praying, wishing that people do stay, and that, you know, as long as we can nurture that relationship, that like things can grow. And you know, that's like what we can do. That is what is within our control, is like being kind, being loving, nurturing, and being hopeful that like the relationships that we pour into are also going to pour back into us. That's like what we have control over. And I think that like people do make mistakes. Sometimes like trusting feels like a gamble, but it's like it's a gamble that if we win, we get like connection, love, care, good feelings, people looking out for us, people wanting to do good by us. And if we lose, like maybe we get hurt, but it doesn't mean that like the love goes away. You know, like it doesn't mean that it wasn't for anything. It just means that like maybe that's not the right time, or like someone is needs something else. They need to like connect with themselves. But it was really like making me think too about like how the idea of like faith, it's like having faith is like trusting the divine process, and being able to trust the divine process. It's like that goes into like so many things. It's like there are lots of times when I've talked about like in other videos too, like just going through periods where like I was unhoused, or like I didn't have money to pay for the things that I needed, like just basic things, you know, like food, shelter. Like I didn't know why I couldn't just like get it together, you know, like I just kind of felt like why, like I was just always asking myself like why am I in this situation? Like I'm trying, but I feel like maybe I'm like turning down opportunities, or like I just didn't know. Like it was like I was confused about it, but now I'm starting to realize that, like, even though those things happened, I was always able to find it something different. I was always able to like get out of that situation. Different things came to me, like new opportunities came, like things always, like I'm still here, like I'm okay. And there was like a part of me that always kind of did have like faith and trust that like things would get better, things would get easier, and like I would tell myself that. And there were other times where like I would still feel like a sense of like lack, but I think like I'm making the connection now that like trust is not just like affecting my relationships or like the people that I'm around, or like my like needing reassurance. It's like it also affects like being able to take care of myself. It affects how I choose to move and how I choose to do things, because if I'm moving from a place of not trusting, that means I'm kind of like feeling this fear, feeling these things, this anxiety. It's like heightened emotions. And then I miss like the opportunity, I miss the time, I miss like seeing the resources around me that I can use. And it's like I miss being able to like trust myself enough to get up again, to like make a move, to do something that would put me in like a better situation, that would like allow me to care for myself more. And I feel like moving from like a place of distrust, it just makes it so that like it's less about what, like I'm even less in control of what's going to happen, because I'm not taking like any steps. It's like just being kind of like frozen, like not feeling like having that loss of control affect my next move. It starts to affect like the things that I'm doing. Like if it affects like just like daily life, like everything, because I'm just getting fixated or like feeling like I have to be fearful of an outcome, or fearful of situations, fearful of what people might do. It's like, it's just like not having trust means that like I'm closer to fear. And that means that like it's taking up a huge amount of energy and time and like thinking dedicated toward those feelings, instead of like dedicated toward like the possibility of momentum, of connection, of care. And it's something that like I'm still like working through all the time, but I do feel like I've made a lot of progress in. And I think that especially like when we're moving out of like a place of trauma, it can be it can be very challenging. And I have seen how it just like affects all areas of life. And being able to regulate and kind of like move in the direction of having trust in ourselves, in others, in divine timing and divine intervention. It's like it allows us to have like a freeness in our mind that can make it possible to see other things, to be open to other things. And I think that it's beautiful, like being able to move through that. So that's what came up for me today. um I hope that you have a good time. I hope that you can feel some ease and stay chill. It was nice chatting.